Greetings, everyone, and welcome to part 11 of the Doctor Who DVD Disambiguation. This time around, we'll be covering Season 11, the 1973-74 season of the classic series, which is the epic send-off season for the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee. Yes, after a stellar 5-year run, it was time to hang up the Victorian coat and park Bessie in the garage and move on to other things. Well, let's take a look at it today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, after a spectacular 10th anniversary year, it was time for more changes. Jon Pertwee had decided that 5 years as the Doctor was enough. There was a few things that prompted his decision, one of which, sadly, was the untimely death of Roger Delgado, who played the Master. Originally, they were actually going to do a final story with the Master, where the Doctor and the Master had a big, epic final confrontation, which would result in the death of the character, because Roger Delgado was feeling he was getting a little bit typecast, and he was having some issues where he wasn't getting as many offers for other things because of his constant guest appearances on Doctor Who, and he just kind of wanted to be freed of it. He had a blast with it and loved the show, but wanted to move on. So he was actually shooting a movie, and sadly was killed in a car accident while on the way to the movie shoot. So it was very unfortunate. So he and Jon Pertwee were very good friends, and it just devastated him. And that was one of the reasons that he wanted to leave the show. The other reason was a lot of the production team was actually moving on as well, such as Barry Letts, who had been the producer through most of his run, and stuff like that. So it just felt like it wasn't the same old family that had been doing the show for a long time, so it was time to move on. So he put in his notice and said, he would do one last full season to give his Doctor a proper send-off, and that would be that. So, at the end of the previous season, of course, we saw the departure of Joe Grant, and the opening of this season, we saw the introduction of arguably one of the most popular companions of all time, Sarah Jane Smith. In story number 70, the fantastic season opener written by Robert Holmes, one of the all-time greatest Doctor Who writers ever, the Time Warrior. Now, those of you who have been watching my videos for a while may recall I mentioned this one before. I actually did acquire it a number of years ago. This is a reacquisition. I've long since sold the old Doctor Who collection, and I've been rebuilding it this year. This is really notable for a number of reasons. For one thing, it's the debut of this logo. Yes, Season 11 was the first time the famous Doctor Who diamond logo was used. It's also the first time that we saw the time tunnel, the slit scan time tunnel opening title sequence, which was quite spectacular, which was actually the version used for the fourth Doctor, which was slightly different than the third Doctor version, was the first version of the title sequence I ever saw. So to me, it was always that. So when I went back and watched the earlier episodes, I was really, I thought, oh, they didn't always use the time tunnel, they did other effects. But after 10 years of using the so-called howl-around effect, basically the video feedback effect with the titles mixed into it and stuff like that, I guess they just felt it was time to do something different, to spice things up, to bring the show into a new era again. So they developed the time tunnel sequence, and it was absolutely spectacular. It's really quite a striking opening title sequence, and very well done. This also is the debut of the Sontarans. This is the first time we ever meet a Sontaran. The unforgettable character of Lynx here, which is great stuff. And there's a few other firsts that I actually don't recall off the top of my head, but those are sort of the big ones. The debut of the time tunnel slit scan sequence, debut of the Sontarans, debut of the diamond logo, obviously, as part of the title sequence, and the debut of Sarah Jane Smith. So those are four pretty big debuts there to kick off the season. Plus, on top of that, it's just a fantastic story. This is really good. Rosie and I actually watched this one together as well, and she really likes the Sontarans, actually. I think they're one of her favorite monsters so far. So, carrying on from there, we have a terrific story, kind of let down by some very cheesy effects, but you got to admire the ambition. We have Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Now, Invasion of the Dinosaurs is notable in that it represents the absolute last of the episodes that are problematic. Now, one of the stories that was slated to be junked was the second Doctor story, The Invasion. This is part of the whole missing episodes thing that I've been talking about for ages. You should know what I mean by now. So, part 1 of Invasion of the Dinosaurs was simply entitled Invasion. One of the reasons being they wanted to keep it a surprise what the nature of the invading creatures were. That it was dinosaurs. So it was revealed at the end of the episode that it was dinosaurs. And then from episode 2 onward, it's called Invasion of the Dinosaurs. So part 1 of this story was just titled Invasion, and as such, it was mistakenly junked along with the episodes of the second Doctor story. And as a result, the only copy that existed for a very long time was, once again, a black and white film print. Now, I believe they managed to get their hands on a domestic full-color recording, but the quality of it wasn't very good. So this is the one case where the color restoration is not particularly spectacular. It's kind of washed out and fuzzy, but I mean it's color enough that you can see what the color was, and then the remaining 5 episodes are in full color. Actually, for a long time, when this was shown in repeats, they actually wouldn't even show the first episode at all, even though they had it in black and white. They would show a slightly re-edited version that had been cut down to 5 parts. And that's the only version that I had seen, actually, for a long time, until I got the DVD. Interesting to note, the DVD, the restoration team obviously was not thrilled with how the color turned out. So as an option on here, you can actually watch just the black and white version if you prefer, if you can't stand the color. Because the color is definitely nowhere near as spectacular as it is on the other restored stories. But it's okay. Honestly, it didn't bother me that much. I mean, I come from an era of watching washed out old VHS recordings of stuff, so the color on that didn't look anywhere near as bad as some of the old VHS recordings I have in my collection, so I was willing to let it go. What was kind of funny is when Rosie and I were watching it, she actually said, I wish the whole story was in black and white. Isn't that adorable? Because her very first story that she ever watched all the way through was The Mind Robber, which is a second Doctor black and white story. And she loves Doctor Who in black and white, which I think is great. I think it's wonderful that someone so young appreciates the beauty of black and white and really makes little to no distinction between color and black and white. To her, it doesn't matter if Doctor Who is in black and white or color. All that matters is that it's Doctor Who, and that, Daddy and Rosie are watching it together, and it's just a nice thing that we enjoy together. So anyway, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, really nice 2-disc set there. And then next up, we have story number 72, Death to the Daleks. For a long time, this was my all-time favorite Dalek story, and let me explain why. One of the features of this is it takes place in a sort of a computerized city, and there's an episode where the Doctor and one of the aliens he befriends in the story have to work their way through this city. And it's one of these ancient cities that's full of devious puzzles and traps and such, and they have to figure out the puzzles and traps. And I don't know why, I've just always loved stories like that take place in these ancient places that have all these devious traps, and they gotta outsmart the traps and stuff like that. I've always just found that kind of thing fun and entertaining. So I love that was an aspect of Death to the Daleks. And I don't know. There was just something about that story that always appealed to me, and it's always been kind of special to me. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say other than that. I just always really liked it. It's got some pretty cool effects in it as well. I mean, the city designs are pretty nice, and the Daleks are back to their old bad selves, you know. Next up, we have another epic six-parter. We have a sequel to a story from a couple seasons back. We have The Monster of Peladon, which features, of course, once again, the return of the Ice Warriors, and the return of a lot of the characters, actually, from The Curse of Peladon, which, of course, this is a sequel to. And, yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. I like this one. Funny enough, when I originally saw the early 70s Who, I actually saw The Monster of Peladon before I saw The Curse of Peladon, so I didn't even know it was a sequel. So when the Doctor meets up with Agador again, I just thought, like, oh, I guess he's referring to something that occurred off screen. I don't know. I didn't know that it was an actual sequel to an episode, and it was referring directly back to it, so that was pretty cool. So that's a fun story. And finally, last but most certainly not least, we have another epic six-parter, the Swan Song of the Third Doctor, The Planet of the Spiders. Yeah, this is a great one. This story really sends the Third Doctor off with a bang. We've got pretty much every single gadget and vehicle you can think of crammed in there. It's just an absolute tour de force blast of a story. You got what seems to be devil worshippers who are actually spider worshippers. You got Bessie in there. You got the Who-mobile. You got a hovercraft chase, and just there's a whole episode in there that's almost entirely one big chase scene. But the guy he's chasing can teleport, and even Rosie, 5-year-old Rosie, pointed that out. She said, so "There's this chase scene. It goes on the whole episode, and then the guy just teleports away at the end of it." And even Rosie pointed out immediately. It's like, well, if he could just teleport, why did they bother chasing him all that time? Why didn't he just escape? So even a 5-year-old wasn't falling for that one. And I said, well, I guess they just wanted to have a big, exciting chase scene, so I don't know. I didn't know how else to explain it. I mean, she called it, man. She called it out. So there you go. So that is the Third Doctor's final season, and I have to say his regeneration scene is one of the most touching and endearing regeneration scenes in the history of the series. It's very, very heartfelt, and you get a little bit of the feels. You definitely get a little bit of the feels, especially if you've been sticking with the Third Doctor all the way through and enjoying his adventures. You really come to adore him. I mean, he was just fantastic. Jon Pertwee is easily one of my all-time favorite Doctors, because I think he brought so much class to the role, and he was very much a man of action, and and he working a little bit. He mostly played it straight, like mostly serious, but he put little touches of humor in there where appropriate, and he was just such an amazing actor. He really was. I mean, it's especially a joy when these DVDs have some behind-the-scenes footage, and you get to see just what a consummate professional he was. And also just hearing, I mean, these all have commentaries and stuff on them, and just hearing the reminiscences of the cast and crew about their time working with him. They all have nothing but good things to say about him, and just sounds like he was a great guy. Yeah, so Third Doctor, done. Great stuff. 5 solid years of Doctor Who right there, and definitely a terrific first 5 years of the 70s. So, to sum up, we have stories 70, 71, 72, 73, and 74. So we got the Time Warrior, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Death of the Daleks, Monster of Peladon, and Planet of the Spiders. Great stuff. Alrighty, that is it for Season 11 and the Third Doctor. So we'll see you next time for Season 12 and the debut of who I know is many people's all-time favorite Doctor, and probably the most recognizable and instantly associated with Doctor Who face of Doctor Who, Mr. Tom Baker. But that's next time when we cover Season 12 of Doctor Who and the Doctor Who DVD Disambiguation. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara.